Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, baseball fans. Welcome back to the Barstool Baseball Show. This is Friday. This is the American League Show. It is Carl, and I am joined by Chris Castellani in Detroit. Chris, what's going on?
Not much, man. We got a juicy week of American League Baseball, a lot to discuss. I'm ready. I just tweeted before a podcast, man. I'm like, Dwight Schrute in that episode when he's about to ask for a raise, when he's like, that's me. I get the energy up. I listen to some heavy metal. Let's do this thing. I'm ready to bang it out.
Okay, heavy metal. I've been listening to a lot of Wolf Mother lately. So if you're if you're a Wolf Mother guy out there, I want to talk to you. Like you said, huge week, juicy stuff in the American League. And I like that we have these segmented breakdowns for the American League, National Leagues Wednesday, and then on Monday we do power rankings where we talk about the top teams in the league and some of the biggest storylines. But it's Friday. I'm with Chris Castellani. When it comes to the American League, I consider just like a foremost expert. We've got a fun game we're going to play towards the end of today's show where we kind of rank the teams in order of who would we be fans of if we could just start cold turkey. Everything we know now about baseball, but just start cold turkey right now. You can just pick your own team. There's some big, juicy stuff. I want to start with the biggest thing, though. I want to go out to Toronto. I want to be a Blue Jays fan. I want to be a Yankees fan right now. Put me in the center of the controversy. We got guys getting kicked out. We got sign stealing. We got Aaron Boone yelling at Schneider. What's going on?
Just a bizarre series of circumstances. I mean, when the dust settled, the Yankees impressively won 2 out of 3 in Baltimore. In Toronto. We can't ignore that. Ironically, the only game they lost was a game Garrett Cole pitched. So, I mean, I'm willing to venture this goes way back beyond just a few isolated incidents. But where it started was they caught Aaron Judge on camera looking over clearly into the dugout, or maybe at the first base coach. Dan Shulman on the Blue Jays broadcast recognized that one of those weird instances. He goes, you don't want to make accusations. Next pitch is a home run. And it set off a firestorm of people accusing the Yankees of cheating. The next day, then it just got petty because the next day you have Luis Rojas, third base coach for the Yankees, is being told he's too far outside the coaching box. And it seemed like it was finally getting somewhat settled. And I was actually kind of on the Yankees side here. Like I was not a pro cheating guy in this instance. And then Domingo German gets tossed from the game for a foreign substance check. It looked like he had something on his belt. So it furthers my theory that everyone in some way is trying to get ahead, whether it be sign stealing, sticky stuff, what have you. I guess just my general view of this, and it's bizarre to me to be pro-Yankee in anything, but to a certain extent, the Blue Jays are becoming kind of unlikable to me. And I like so many of their players, but they have a bit of a bravado to them and a bit of swagger to them that is fun to watch when you're scrolling through whatever game you want to watch that particular night, but they kind of haven't won anything. And now they're just blindly throwing out, it's important to mention that Judge home run, that was a 6-0 game at the time. This wasn't he didn't hit some grand slam when they're down 3 to go ahead. So, yeah, I'm a bit surprised, man, because I want to like this team. I want to like this group. But, that series there is a prime example of what bothers me about it. You got 2 out of 3 at home against the Yankees. Aaron Judge gets the best of you those first 2 games. You end up losing the series.
I have a lot of takes about this. I would like to start with the managers. When I see Boone and Schneider going at it, what happened to the days of Earl Weaver and Tommy Lasorda? It's such weak energy from the manager positions in both teams. And this is a moment where you could have 2 old guys going at it. This is where baseball's let me down. I want better beef with the managers.
You'd like to have a Dusty Baker, Tony La Russa moment there. Just like where you get where those guys are so upset that you almost wish they'd stop the game and just have these guys duke it out at home plate, like type of energy. Yeah.
These are guys that would celebrate a division champion, like a division series. If they win an ALDS, both these guys are going to have like the biggest dinners with their wives and they'll be so happy and all that shit. Like there's something about the managers there where we could have tougher guys get to a meaner level. Another thing is that, and I blogged the Aaron Judge eye movement initially as a joke to say like, well, it's better to ask, who knows if he's cheating? He's probably not in some sort of systemic cheating. But then there was a thought that maybe he's picking something up on the pitch. Now, is it the first baseman who's got a late lean or late movement? Now they're incorporating first baseman into like the pre-pitch design. Hey, we want you shifting towards the line if it's off speed or whatever. But that's a lot. That's a lot to ask of a first baseman. A lot of major, like you just, I wouldn't buy into that. I'm way more surprised to find out it sounds like sloppy signs. That's like is it? And as a baseball guy, that makes me very happy because sloppy signs are the type of things that, like, in high school, like, kids have to run so much extra because they gave sloppy signs. And it's like, hey, guess what, kids? Don't worry. Like, even in the big leagues, guys are giving sloppy signs.
Right. Well, I think that the Astros scandal broke a lot of people's brains because people referred to it as the sign stealing scandal. Sign stealing is not illegal. It's something that's been going on in baseball since the dawn of time. It's the way the Astros did it, using the technology was taking it one step too far. So, like, to me, keep in mind, Jay Jackson, the pitcher for the Blue Jays, admitted he was tipping pitches after that outing. So really, it's kind of all for naught at this point when he was open about it. But yeah, I mean, even if Aaron Judge or somebody on the Yankees had figured out what kind of pitch this guy was throwing, there's nothing illegal about it. Yeah, I mean, he teed off on him. That's kind of what Judge does best at this point. But yeah, it's only super awesome for me because in this tightly contested division where you have 5 teams that are all above 500. I love baseball rivalries. I want to see a throwback to that. When was the last really legitimate, like, these teams hate each other rivalry that we had in this sport?
I don't know. I would say maybe like the Dodgers and the Giants still have a little bit of that lurking. Yeah, I mean, I know the Giants suck this year.
Little bit going on with the Padres too, and the Dodgers. I feel like that's been intense for a few years. But like the last one I could think of where it's like these teams might come to blows, and they didn't play that often, was the Rangers-Blue Jays rivalry back in 15-16. The post-Batista bat flip, Odor punching Batista in the face. Like, you don't want to see anybody.
You said they didn't go to blows?
No, I said no. If I did, then that was a mistake. No, they definitely did go to blows. Is what I'm saying. I'm saying that I want to see. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but I love baseball rivalries. I love the pettiness of baseball rivalries. The next time these two teams play, I don't know when it is. It's going to be on the back of everyone's mind. I think that's fantastic in a 162 game season. So yeah, and look, in fairness to both teams, like you said, I check up on it too. You have something to play for every game in the American League East right now. If you think a guy might be stealing signs or tipping pitches, you got to check up on it. I think doing what they did with Rojas in third base box was a bit ridiculous, but whatever.
Yeah, but the pettiness is where the rivalries are going to start. So the thing is that both teams would need to be in the championship series this year for it to be like a legit rivalry. If this to continue or this to build or grow into anything. Otherwise, it's just two teams that are good in the AL East right now because, if this moment can happen with any of those teams, I think.
Fair point. Like, that is what made
Hyde
that.
Brandon Hyde's probably chomping at the bit to talk shit to the Blue Jays and vice versa.
Yeah. Well, they had a little spat a few years ago with Robbie Ray accusing them of tipping his. So yeah. A lot of fun in the AL East right now. I love it.
Domingo, bad stuff, getting caught cheating. I think this is the second time he got popped, so I don't know what long the suspension is, but like the Yankees just, in this division, he's throwing the ball well enough where like you're just so stupid. But at the same time, maybe he's throwing the ball well enough because he's cheating. Who fucking knows the balance here?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's in that instance, and really he'll be suspended now for 10 games. The impact had more to do with the long-term effects, I feel like, than just the game in the moment, because that is a rotation that has been decimated with injuries. But yeah, I mean, it's stupidity. Second guy this year, along with Scherzer, to get caught. And even Scherzer was kind of a weird situation. So yeah, they needed him in that game. They ended up winning it, but nearly coughed it up once he was taken out of the game because he had a no-hitter going through 3.
Yeah. Now, the other pitcher in the series involved, I hated the dialogue we had in the group chat about this, Alek Manoah going to AAA. I know he's struggled, and so this idea of what do we do with Alek Manoah, because it's obvious he's struggling, right? So he's clearly struggling, and it's mostly, we're saying, because of the pitch clock, right?
I would say so, though it's I doing a little bit of a deeper dive, and there was a great article that I read earlier this week about it. I mean, if you want to get really super baseball nerdy technical with it, the plane on his slider is completely foobarred compared to where it was a year ago. He's not getting swings and misses with that pitch. We talked about it in the group chat where, look, he's not going to get sent down. But in this division that is so competitive, when you have a guy who is very clearly still trying to figure out the pitch clock and just still trying to figure out his stuff right now, you can't afford to have an elongated losing streak. You can't afford to have a guy who's going to take the mound every 5th day and give up 5-6 runs. And his baseball savant page is brutal. I mean, he's in the single digit percentile in multiple categories, walked 7 in his most recent outing. It's like, there's a difference between a guy maybe not being the number one ace pitcher that he was a year ago and somebody who's becoming a liability. I think the more likely course of action here would you do one of those false 10-day made-up IL stints and just see if he can get his mind right and he comes back. Because I know he's a good pitcher. The stuff is still solid. But there's been a fall off that I would say is even worse than the numbers indicate. I mean, he doesn't even appear like the same pitcher.
Yeah, that's a really... historically speaking, I cannot think of a situation like this unless it comes out that he's hurt. The walk rate is through the roof. 32 walks in 40-something innings. He's given up 49 hits, I believe, in 44 innings. The whip is almost 2. Not good.
Yeah.
To be clear, all right, we're talking about a guy who last year finished 3rd in Cy Young.
3rd, I believe, for the Cy Young.
Top 20 in MVP voting.
Yeah. That's about as bizarre as it gets. I think you're right. That is a fair point, though. Where I don't think there's anything. I mean, there's the shot clock in basketball, but I don't know what impact that had on stamina. There's never really been anything like this in sports history. I feel like with the institution of the pitch clock and the way that pitchers and hitters, in fairness, have had to adjust to it. It's bizarre, but I would say the pitch clock is a huge part of this. There's more to his struggles than just that, because the movement on the pitches, velocity, walk rate, everything, command, it's all a mess right now.
I mean, I'm putting the pitch clock a tier below the forward pass. A forward pass is number 1. I'm going 3-point line.
Yep.
And then a pitch clock.
I would say so. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. There's going to be one day a great documentary about the guys who just couldn't survive the pitch clock, because there will be that core of players. Yeah, what's up?
I say pitch clock kills the extra point. When they move the extra point back to 33 yards, I'm taking pitch clock to the bank on that.
And really, after that first year, that did not become the story that people thought it would be, moving the extra point back. Like it is, because that first year there were a ton of missed extra points. After a while, it became commonplace. This pitch clock's not going away. So, I mean, either you adjust to it or, adapt or die at this point.
We're obviously going to stay in the American League because this is the American League Friday show. Go check out the It Ain't Over movie out now in the tri-state area, by the way, guys. The Yogi Bear doc. How about this? There's a race that we should start to talk about now because I think it's going to be a race. And that's in the AL West. I'd rather spend some time in your home base, though. Let's get you nice and comfortable. Let's talk some Central.
Okay, that works, yeah.
The thing off the top of my head when I look at the Central, and I think most people should be asking, the number one question that people should ask when they look at the Central is, can the White Sox actually win this division? Because Luis Robert is an MVP candidate, whether you like that team or not.
It's funny because I was watching them the other night against Cleveland, and I was looking at the lineup, and I know they've had some injuries, and Anderson, even when he's been healthy, hasn't been great. But he's going to be fine. That's one guy I'm not worried about. But I was looking at the lineup, and I'm like, God, there are players here I really like. And I think last year, at this point in the season, the American League Central was what it is now. You had a bunch of teams hovering around 500 or below 500. Now, in the summer months, Cleveland, to their credit, played really well, did, get to that 90 win range and gave the Yankees some trouble in the ALDS. We're kind of in that same spot now. And the Twins haven't gone on some crazy run. The Guardians are playing like how I expected they would have played a year ago, which is that it's a young offense that just doesn't hit for a ton of power and is almost completely reliant on their starting pitching. So looking at the White Sox, it's like they do still have the highest ceiling of any team in that division. I think in a weird way, I've always thought that they go as Tim Anderson goes. I feel like they probably go at this point as Luis Robert goes. I mean, got benched a few weeks ago. Since May began, so we're talking about 15 games for him. He's got an OPS, I think it's 1374, and he's drawing walks, which is an issue that he's struggled with throughout his career so far. There is a window for them. Like, do I think the White Sox win the Central? No, but there is a window with the schedule they have coming up and the fact that nobody else in this division is pulling away with it at this point. They're not as out of it as people think. Now, it would take 85 wins, but the fact that, considering how bad they were, the fact that this is even a discussion at this point shows how bad that division is.
Yeah, and Dylan Cease has been terrible. Michael Kopech obviously has been terrible.
Right.
Mike Clevenger has been terrible. Lance Lynn has been horrific. Lucas Giolito's pitching his way out of town. So there's some, these are great names, man. You go back a couple of years and you told me there's a rotation of Kopech, Cease, Clevenger, Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, and Dylan Cease, and you're going to Vegas and placing a bet on playoff odds.
I was high on them for a long time. And they also have one kind of, little magic elixir potentially for the White Sox. Not saying that's going to turn their season around completely, but I think outside of being one of the best closers in baseball, Liam Hendriks' presence in that clubhouse makes a big difference. And so I think just by having him there, it could really help them going forward and potentially make it, have a shot at the division.
Yeah, it's certainly something to follow with these White Sox because it's so easy early in the year to get branded as something and then not be that. So a good example would be, we talked, and I don't want to get the Cincinnati Reds last year. This is the American League show, but they were 500 over like a 75 game stretch or something. Yeah, in the second half of the season. That's a bad example. I want to stay in the division though. How are we feeling about the Tigers?
There's a Jekyll and Hyde thing going on with them where I think that they might suck against lefties, but look, they have, this is, okay, now I'm nervous, Carl. I'm entering the danger zone with this team because there is a pathway. We just talked about it with the White Sox. There is a pathway for the Tigers to, by this time 2 weeks from now, to be a team that's close to first place. Their next 7 to 10 games, you're playing some teams that you are better than. You are better than the Nationals. You got 3 on the road against them. You are better than the Royals, who are awful. I think you have 4 on the road against them. If you go 5-2 in this division, you're coming back home probably 2 games out of first, if not better. Like now is a point with this stretch coming up where I'm like, I'm not heartbroken, but I would be legitimately disappointed if they come out of this 3-4 or 2-5 on what should be an easy stretch where you could play genuinely some meaningful baseball into June.
I have the numbers here. Do you want to know where they rank, where their OPS ranks against left-handed pitching?
28th.
It's close. They're 23rd.
23rd. Okay.
They have a 680 OPS against left-handed pitching as a team. The worst team in the American League is Cleveland at 643. Now, there's some really good teams. Tampa has a 917 OPS against left-handed pitching, which is interesting because,
MVP statistics.
Just as a comparison, the Mets, when they played against Senga yesterday, they ran out, I want to say, 8 of 9 lefties, competent lefties. 7 of 9 players. So to have such a dominant OPS against left-handed pitching. So that's a thorn in the side. At the same time, though, when I look at right-handed hitters for Detroit, I don't feel any sense of, Now you have some good lefties. Riley Green's been pretty good in May.
He's been very good. And that was a point of contention I had yesterday as this is as hot as he's been in his major league career. They went up against a lefty and sat him with a travel day coming up. Hated that. Can't stand that. If this guy's going to be your franchise player, you got to throw him to the wolves against lefties. But it's just, I think that the players we have on the team as a whole, it just fits for us, because there's some guys, the right-handers in this lineup that are toast. Like Jonathan Scope is toast. Miggy, God bless him, is like maybe the worst hitter in baseball at this point, at least in terms of power. So I think it just sets up better for them against righties. But look, they've played good baseball. Yesterday was a dumpster fire against the Pirates, but I'm happy up to this point with the way things have gone.
Anything else within that division from the perspective of like, if I'm a baseball fan and I'm just cruising through for the weekend, is there anything else that's jumping out with the Central? Because I hate to do this to the Twins, and we're going to talk about every team in the segment towards the end of the show. That's something I want to get to with these like American National League shows. How do we figure out a way to actually have substantive banner about each and every team? So we have something set up for the end of the show. We'll talk about every team. But just as we're like moving out of the Central here, I'm sorry to Minnesota. I'm sorry to the Twins. I'm sorry. I want to make you guys important. I want to make those storylines important. but there's nothing about the Twins that, like, even with just this like ridiculous, Joe Ryan is such a stud. Like,
they have some great players.
People care.
Yeah, it's a bizarrely just kind of unsexy team. And look, if they get hot in the summer, it could be a completely different discussion. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. They're not one of my appointment viewing teams.
So just looking ahead at their schedule too, right? Like, they're 24-20. They're first in the division. We spent most of the time with the Central talking about how like the White Sox could win the division. They're in the middle of their West Coast road trip. They could have taken the series from the Dodgers. Like, they lose 9-8, final 12. They come back, they win on Tuesday. They're still out west. Then they're home against San Francisco, home against Toronto, then in Houston. I mean, I hate to say it, but like it's gonna be June 1st, and the Twins are either gonna be 8 games over 500 and they've played well down the stretch, or I think they get their tits blown off. I can't see a situation where they just kind of wobble their way through this part of the schedule because they got some thunder coming and tough travel.
And we got that same stretch for them last year. They were in first place for a large stretch of last season, and then they had a window where they played some good teams and they couldn't beat any. I mean, Cleveland kicked their ass. So yeah, maybe we see that again this year. That series against the Dodgers is indicative of what always worries me about them. They played them tough. They could have not only won that series but swept that series. You end up losing 2 out of 3. It's like if you win a few of those, I'll start to believe, but not right now.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Let's go west. Let's stay west. This is something I've talked about anytime I can talk about the AL West for the last couple of years. It's the Astros show. People are very quick to say it's a shame Trout and Ohtani can't get any support. And the Rangers just very quietly, okay? Here's some of the big moves the Rangers have pulled up. They built the new ballpark. They used the new ballpark for the COVID testing or for COVID playoffs. They got themselves an all-star game. They went out and signed the best second baseman available. Then they signed one of the best shortstops available. And then they gave just like an unbelievably big deal to one of the best pitchers of our generation. They've invested heavily. They've done a good job with the scouting department. They've groomed Chris Young to be the president of operations, and he's just kind of running with shit now. John Daniels is out. He's with the Rays now. They've put this thing in a position for like an 8 to 10 year window to open up. And so I think are the Rangers, is this window officially open? And do you see them as like a legitimate contender against the Houston Astros, not just this year, but moving forward?
It's trending that way right now, based on what I see. As far as this year's team, an incomplete product, but a team that I think could be capable with the right trade deadline of making a deep run into October. There's a good vibe that comes off of them. I think one of the best moves they made that you didn't mention there, hiring Bruce Bochy. There's just the way Bruce Bochy teams play. There's just a level of professionalism. Like they're show up ready to the park. They play fundamental baseball. They don't do stupid shit. What is so impressive about the Rangers and what may end up coming back to bite them in some capacity, it was unnecessary to sign DeGrom. I mean, this team, I think, would be in the exact same spot without him right now because, you want him to get healthy. But, I mean, Eovaldi is unconscious right now, just pitching the best baseball of his life.
Dude, I have to say F you for a minute because F you. How are you going to win it? How are you going to win a 5-game series without having somebody that can pitch game 1 and 5 at like an elite Garrett Cole shutdown?
I think Eovaldi can.
You would go get Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. You would build up this whole thing. You'd get Bruce Bochy out of retirement. You'd build a new ballpark. You do all this stuff, and then you'd get to October. You'd fucking grind through 162, get to October, and be like, all right, we have Eovaldi against...
Well, wait.
Against Shane McClanahan? Against Garrett Cole?
Fair. Better pitchers. Was Eovaldi not the Red Sox best pitcher in October in 2018?
I mean, if you're going to... Sure, yes. Yeah, you want me to say out loud? Yes.
Was he not the game 1 guy? Won the wild card game in 2021, 2 years ago, and with a Red Sox team that got to the ALCS. I know... I get where the numbers wise, of course, give me McClanahan, give me Cole. Those guys are, Cole's a good postseason pitcher as well. Eovaldi's got a clutch gene that gets overlooked, and he's pitching the best baseball of his career right now. He just had last night. I think he gave up 3. He had almost a 30-inning scoring streak or a scoreless streak going.
Yeah, and his ERA was still around 2.6 while that was going on, which tells you what about the first 30 innings of the season that nobody wants to talk about.
It was early.
Yeah, exactly. It was super early. People
the weather
love to
was
do
cold.
That. Listen, I like Eovaldi. I love identifying guys with like an underrated clutch gene. Yeah, dude, he pitched well in that 2018 World Series. Pitched well in the 2018 playoffs.
He's great.
Basically, he's pitched well in the playoffs except for the ALCS against Houston in 2021, and
and most of that was I gave up 4 runs out of the bullpen in one outing. But yeah, no, look, man, I get your point. And for the record, by the way, I still don't think they win the division, but I think that they have built a team that is here to stay for this year. I think they are a contender and not a pretender, and they have a pretty good system as well. Like, this is not a finished product here in Texas. I think that. Even at the time, I kind of rolled my eyes on it. I think they have been smart spending before the young core arrives. I mean, then you have something to come up to. So, yeah, they've been smart. Dangerous club.
I hate bringing up top talent and then with the expectation that you're top talent, you're going to be awesome right away. Like, this game is obviously just so hard. They've got 5 or 6 prospects in the top 100. People were expecting Jack Leiter at this point should be up right now, dominating. If he's got to take another year or 2 to get seasoned, it's a hard game. It's a hard game. Here's a perfect example of how hard the game is. You know who leads the American League in home runs and RBIs right now? It's a guy who hit 118 for the St. Louis Cardinals in 2018 and has been kicked around. Adolis Garcia is absolutely gigantic. I mean, he's put on a ton of weight. His lower half is explosive. But it's just a perfect example of how hard the game is. He's 27 years old. He's on a league minimum deal. I don't think he hits arbitration for like another 2 seasons anyways. It's a perfect example of how the Rangers have been able to get. He's hitting cleanup for him. He's hitting after Corey Seager, after Marcus Semien, after Nate Lower, Jonah Heim. Like, he's hitting in the middle of that order. They're paying him $750,000. He's leading the league in power metrics.
Yeah, no, we talk all the time about the high end free agents, and we talk about the top prospects. The scrap heap guys are sometimes the guys that accelerate your rebuild. I mean, imagine where this team would be without him on the roster. Took a flyer out on him. He's turned into a star. I mean, he was an all-star, I believe, 2 years ago, on his way to potentially being an all-star again. That's one hell of a core. There's not a lot of 2, 3, 4s that are better than Seager, Semien, and Adolis Garcia right now.
Yeah, he was an all-star after a great first half with Texas 3 seasons ago. I believe that was I shouldn't say it. Okay, Jonah Heim makes league minimum. Josh Young makes league minimum. Robbie Grossman should make league minimum, but he probably makes $5 or $6 million.
He got a major league deal. Yeah.
Okay. Leody Taveras makes league minimum. Adolis Garcia makes league minimum. Brad Miller makes whatever. A couple million. He makes whatever he should make because it's Brad Miller and he's sweet. The prospects haven't really even arrived. I mean, you have some of these better, younger players within their organization. So it's almost when you go through it, you kind of look at the Jacob deGrom deal and you're like, they have the money to spend. Like, if it's in the budget, what are you going to do with the money anyways? Invest it in a low yield mutual fund, Chris?
Fair point. You might as well. Yeah. I mean, I don't begrudge them necessarily. Like, and look, dude, who knows? Maybe deGrom comes back and he's healthy and throwing 102 again. Like, he easily could. He's been a unicorn his whole career. But yeah, I wasn't that crazy about that deal, but I understand it, like, philosophically. Like, why the hell not? He has the highest ceiling of any pitcher in baseball. When he's on, he's maybe the best pitcher of the last 15, 20 years.
I'll give you an example of a team that did not do a good job of building around the young players, and that is the White Sox. They're tied to the Texas Rangers because Dane Dunning has been outstanding.
Phenomenal.
For the Rangers. Okay, I think he's made 7 starts. No, pitched in 11 games, 3 starts.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it was. I think he dominated out of the pen, and then they moved him to the rotation.
Okay, so I think 37 innings, 26 hits, maybe like 7 walks, 26 strikeouts. Not the most impressive looking guy. Where's the rec specs? The White Sox traded Dane Dunning to the Rangers for Lance Lynn.
Yeah.
Lance Lynn came out in 2021 and pitched extremely well in the first half. He was on a 1-year deal. The White Sox extended him for reasons unbeknownst to whatever. They gave him, I think it was like a $40 million extension for the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's pitching to a 6.7 ERA right now. Dane Dunning looks like somebody who can go out and give you 20 more starts this season and not shit the bed ever. And over a course of 162, I feel like the Oakland Athletics just found guys like this all the time. Like this is just a classic early 2000s, mid 2010s. Doesn't strike a ton of guys out, doesn't throw a ton of pitches, moves the game along quickly. And because of that, obviously with the pitch clock, he's a perfect pitch clock guy. 94, good sink, running it on your hands, good mix, not overpowering. And it's a name that like we could be in August and people would not talk about Dane Dunning.
Right. Yeah, and he'll be the unsung hero of that team. No, I think I liked that trade, honestly, for both sides when it happened, because I think that Dunning, I'm not going to say he didn't get a fair shot in Chicago, but it just didn't seem like he fit the window necessarily. And Lynn kind of could have accelerated or opened up that window. So I understood the trade at the time, but he was a touted prospect coming out of Florida, and did not get a ton of chances with the White Sox. So it's not shocking to me to see him blossoming there. And those are the guys you need to emerge if you want to, surprise people. And I think that's kind of what we've seen from the Rangers this year.
They had a mix: Ronaldo Lopez, Dane Dunning, Michael Kopech, and Dylan Cease. And Dunning was kind of the vanilla guy in that mix, where like what you already saw when he got up was like, listen, there's not a whole other level for this guy to get to. But I do want to stay with the Astros though and the Rangers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is now that Corey Seager's back, and I want people to recognize that the Rangers, I believe at the time of recording, still lead Major League Baseball in runs scored per game. It is not the Rays, it's the Rangers.
It is. Yep.
Now, Corey Seager's back. They had him DH the other night. He missed a game. He should have come back a little bit early, but I think there's something. People are pooping their pants out there in Texas. And so he had a bad stomach bug. So now he's back. He's rocking and rolling in the DH spot. Trouble for Houston, I think.
This is going to be a close divisional race all year. I still like Houston. I'll continue to like Houston. But the Rangers have the roster to sustain it. We've seen this during this Astros heyday, excluding the COVID year where the A's won it. We've seen this multiple times where the Mariners might give them a run, or Oakland might give them a run, and by the time you get to that 100-plus game mark, they turn it on and run away with it. I think that I think the Rangers have the ability to sustain it all year. I think ultimately when those two teams face off, I do think that Houston will have the advantage, but this is going to be a divisional race. These are two playoff teams. I would be stunned if these aren't two playoff teams that we're talking about potentially making deep runs into October. I think this will be the closest divisional race that we're going to see in Major League Baseball this year.
Been watching a lot of the Astros lately just because the Cubs have been playing them, and
they turned it on.
Just relentless.
They that comeback the other night, relentless is a great word for them, because it's they have a deep lineup. You look across Major League Baseball, pretty much everyone's 1 through 4 is fine. But when you have guys in that 7 spot, that 8 spot, you lose Altuve for 2 months, and Dubon hits 300. Now it seems like the pitching's found it once again. The offense has found it once again. They just swept the Cubs. They're going to get clicking. So this is going to be tightly contested.
Yeah, I saw, and just to go back to this, we've talked about this before. Jose Abreu still looks awful. Like, he just looks like weathered.
Correct, yes.
He had a base hit the other day through the left side. It looked like he was trying to hit a base hit. He looked like he was trying to hit a ground ball in between the shortstop and the third baseman.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I mean, even he's reaching a point now, because we're at the quarter point of the season where, like, even if he turns it on in some capacity, his numbers at the end of the year still won't look that good, because I mean he's fallen way behind. He's gotten a ton of at bats too.
Yeah, no, they're paying him, so they're gonna play him. I don't think the Astros are the type of team to cut that check and then just let him mosey around in the dugout and take BP once every. If they're cutting him a check, the Astros don't like to sign free agents.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, on paper, I like that deal too. I still think Water finds its level with him. If it does, then they become even more dangerous. But yeah, it's been bizarre. I thought that was like one of the signings to me in the offseason that I felt the most confident would hit. And it has not.
Yeah. I don't want to spend that much time on the Mariners, because I want to get a Mariners expert in here to kind of kick around what's going on with them. because they're super fascinating to me. We talked about them last week. I do think that they're a team that can win the World Series. I think that they have like all those right components. You have to have a very good number one. You have to have extremely good, 2 very good pitchers after your number one. You have to have like an MVP candidate that can completely take over a series. Not even saying that they do or will, but it's a factor that goes into whether or not you can make your way through a postseason. I'm very, very interested in them. What kind of bothers me is that through, what is it? It's week 8 now of the Major League season, and I cannot get up for the Angels. I can't put an Angels game on. I can't find myself to talk about them here with you. When we do the power ranking panel, it's mostly just like, oh, the fucking Angels. And then maybe at some point, I start pointing a finger at Mike Trout. And it's like, dude, you know what? Sure. Maybe you got to give me something. Maybe I'm not mad at Art Moreno. Like, where's your... Make me care. Why don't I care, Chris?
I'll make a confession here. We talk about how great Ohtani is, and we talk about how great Trout is. I can't remember. I don't know if I've ever, other than when they're playing the Tigers, sat down and been like, I'm watching the Angels tonight. I mean, that's a horrible indictment on an organization that has the 2 best players in the world. But like, I watch, I'll see an at-bat or 2, maybe, but I see the highlights. Because the team, the product itself is usually so subpar that even with these 2 amazing players, it's like, man, let me watch something else. They haven't played bad baseball this year. They're hovering around 500, but it's just, there is just such a vanilla-ness to the rest of their team. Like they're not awful. They're 2 pieces of white bread on toast, or not toast.
Yeah. No, 2 pieces of white bread on toast. No, I'm not cutting shit. I'm having white bread with toast later. No, dude, seriously. Gio Urshela at first base. What are we doing with Drury? Brandon Drury. Taylor Ward. Hunter Renfroe. And I'm not bringing these guys up for any other reason than like I could be on a bus with just the 4 of them and not know one. I could just not care. I just don't. Give a fuck about any of these guys. Even Anthony Rendon, I'm trying to care, and he's like the greatest player, college age player my age. That was like, oh, fucking wait till Anthony Rendon gets to the big leagues and watch what that guy does. And all he's ever done is exactly what he's supposed to do. And even then, I still like Brett Phillips. Brett Phillips is so interesting. He's like one of the most interesting guys in baseball. Brett Phillips, no one cares that Brett Phillips is a -4 OPS plus for them.
Right. Oh my God. That's always a pretty brutal indictment when you have a negative in a statistic that has plus at the end of it. But that's a bit rough. But no, I'm with you, man. I want to see it. Like I want to see these 2 guys playing really meaningful baseball. I want to see them go on this 8-game win streak where you start to believe in them. But it's been like shockingly similar to what we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, which is not an awful team, but not really a team worth paying attention to other than those 2 guys.
So when we look at the West, I just want to do like a quick standings at the time of recording. The Rangers have a 2-game lead over the Astros, but the Astros have looked very hot over the last couple of weeks. Okay, the Angels are 500, and we're bored and disinterested in them. And we've talked about this before. I don't really care. The Mariners at 21 and 22 to me are like the best under 500 team in baseball, and then obviously the Oakland Athletics. This sets us up for a good transition. I have a game I want to play. But before we play this game, I know something's on your mind. Something's bothering you. Now, I don't know exactly what's bothering you. I just can get the sense when there's something in that Chris Castellani heart that needs to come out. So what is it? What's bothering you?
I'm probably aging myself like 50 years with my rhetoric here as an old man yelling at a cloud, but it's important to me. The other day, the Tigers were playing a game against the Pirates. I believe they had runners. Pirates had runners on first and second with 2 outs in the top of the 2nd inning. A ball was hit to center field. Matt Vierling, who was in center field that day instead of Riley Green, ran back for it, in position for it. It hits the inside of his glove and bounces off. It is ruled a double. My frustration right now is I truly think, in the age of the true outcomes, Major League Baseball is trying to reward guys for putting the ball in play. And because of that, clear errors are constantly ruled hits. Now, part of that is I'm a pitching guy. Like, Give me a 1-0. Each pitcher goes 8 innings strong. Like that's my thing. So it affects ERAs. But honestly, I think it's become kind of a joke to me. I really do think they've bent the rules a lot with that. And I think especially it's made ERA kind of deceiving to me at points because like it's a lot of this stuff is a judgment call. It shouldn't be. Errors should be errors if it goes off a guy's glove every time.
They're hiring official scorekeepers in Major League Baseball.
Are there, dude? I might need to get a second job just out and do it. Let me do the scorekeeping for every game. I guarantee I'll get it right. And
you'd be ruthless. The fielding percentage would plummet when Castellani was behind the pencil.
That's fine. I grade my tests hard. I don't know what to say. These are my subjects. It was it's something that just bothers me now in the modern age because I think they're trying to be a little bit too clever with that.
Do you keep score?
I have. It's not a day-by-day thing, but I have, yeah.
I have a big bone to pick with Major League Baseball because a couple extra seconds would go a long way on that pitch clock for keeping score. Just a few. The joy of keeping score is hard for me to explain appropriately because it just keeps you in the game so that when I go to games, I can sit and talk and we can talk about life and how's work and love, all that stuff. Going to a baseball game is like an opportunity to really get close with who you're going to that game with, and the pitch clock has accelerated that. It's made the gameplay certainly more exciting. There's just shit going on all the time.
Yeah.
But there is the romantic element of going to a game, getting lost for the day, turning the phone off, and then just sitting there and be like, hey, I missed the last 2 hitters. That was a good story. What happened? And the guy behind you is like, oh, it was a double play. And you didn't even know. It's like, oh, it was a great play. You're fucking sitting right there, and you're like, I got sucked into this guy. We're sitting there having a good laugh. So that's my bone. That's my bone to pick. I could use a couple extra seconds per hitter.
That's I think you're the first person to bring up that side of it. I know that when we went to Comerica, you mentioned, and I noticed as well, that your kind of mental clock totally has to change in between innings regarding because you go to concession stands, you go to pee, like whatever. Now all of a sudden you're missing another inning. So I think spectator wise, it's impacted the way that people watch the games as well. I have a quick question for you about scorekeeping. Is it, and I've done both. Is it frowned upon to do it on your phone with some sort of app? Like, is that
I think so. I think that's freaking lame.
I feel like that's where it was going. Yeah, I kind of buy into that. I kind of buy into that. Like, and I'm as tech, not savvy, but I'm as technical as anyone. But yeah, I kind of see it. You need like 3 sharpened number 2 pencils just in case 1 or 2 of them breaks. An extra, exactly. Like that's keeping score. That's authentic. You can feel that. Doing it on app. Yeah. No, I was thinking, as I was asking the question, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know Carl's stance on this.
Well, okay. So yeah, get that stupid phone out of here.
Throw it away.
So I live next to, or in close proximity to one of the oldest buildings in Chicago, one of the oldest businesses in Chicago and one of the few that survived the Chicago fire. And it is a book bindery. They bind and restore old, like you bring in like an Old Testament, from like fucking 1650 that fell off a wooden ship and been sitting in water. Like they'll restore whatever. And it's in like an old famous book business or whatever. My long-winded point of this is I've already talked to Clemmer. I'm very passionate. I wanted to figure out a way to design my own like high-end scorebook. So like I don't know if you can get, like I try to go to 20 games a year. Keeping score 20 times a year is like a good number, and doing like an annual book where you can keep score like 15 or 20 times, and it's really high quality shit. Like the paper's fucking thick, like there's raised lettering, it's well thought out, like the stuff you really want. So
sounds like the business cards in American Psycho. Look at that! Look at that subtle off-white coloring, the tasteful thickness of it.
Hey,
I love it.
That's how crazy I would get. And then what I want to do is I want to go over to the book bindery across the street. I want to drop off the designs, whatever it costs. I'm selling them at cost. I think like I think in like 25 or 30, I think there's like 30 people out there that'd be like, hey, I'd buy one of those and I'd make it so nice and sell it at whatever it costs. I'll pay for shipping too. I just want to know, I want to get like a community of people that like to keep score and like would actually value that and treasure that. And then the idea is to update it annually. So like, hey, the 2024 one's coming out this year. We updated it for, whatever. I don't know. We'll just make it over time so that each year it just gets better and better. Is that a good idea? Yes.
Yeah. No, I like it. Yes.
I had another idea. Can I kick this over one to you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so go see the itaintovermovie.com. It Ain't Over movie is out now about Yogi Berra. Check them out. In the tri-state area. All right, so one thing that came up last American League show is the idea of White Sox Day getting a puppy for baseball. And the concept is like this fluid, like it's not a real puppy. It's something for you to care about and to nurture because you went through a traumatic experience. Right. Like your team sucks. And so you want to get over that traumatic experience. So like find a player, find a team, find a storyline. And while we were talking about it, I was like, I kind of have teams I really like to watch. And then you started talking about the teams you like to watch outside of baseball. So I just thought, you know what? Fuck it. What if I just got brainwashed tomorrow and Jesus Christ was like, Carl, you are no longer a Cubs fan. You can be a fan of whatever team you want. This is the American League Friday show. So I texted you. I was like, hey, we should put together 1 through 15, the team, if we could pick, if we could draft, or if we wanted to be a team. Do you want to work from the, like, who would be the team we would pick? So do you want to work backwards? You want to start with like 15, 14? Should we trade? Should we have one list? Should we have 2 lists? How should we do this?
I was thinking one list that like we do the power rankings with, where we go back and forth, and then we could each have our own. But I feel like that would make for the best conversation. I think. All right,
so let's put together
one could be substantially higher than where we would have put it. One could be substantially lower.
Now, I think it's easier to work backwards from 15.
Yes, I'm with you.
Because if we start with 1, I'm like, no. I want to work backwards from 15. I think we're going to agree with 15.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll go with that right now. Sadly, the Oakland A's.
Okay.
A passionate fan base that is, going to be leaving town pretty soon. Stinks.
So, number 15, Oakland. I don't have any disagreements. I have them. Now, I should also say, this is from the perspective of like, is the team good? Are they going anywhere? Do you like their ownership? Do you trust them historically? Is this a good, are you getting in at the right time? Is this a good time to be a fan of this team? And so for the A's, no, absolutely not. This is like the worst time to be an Oakland A's fan. Number 2 or 14, I have the White Sox. There's so many other teams out there right now. They're just in complete disarray. Like every time you hear about the White Sox, it is like Tim Anderson doesn't want to be here, and the young players are mad, and they got to fire the new manager who's replacing the new manager who was replacing the new, like, it's utter chaos. Jerry Reinsdorf does not spend any money despite the fact he's super rich. He's a super successful sports owner historically. Kenny Williams has been there forever. And the other thing is they fucked with their fans real bad because they were going out there talking about like parades, multiple championships, multiple, just shitting on the rest of their division. And they're so bad relative to what they promise fans. That's like one of those things. I don't stay away. Like being a fan of that team, being a fan of the White Sox. Oh, I cheer for the White Sox. That's crazy to me right now.
Yes, fair. I have them at 13, but I'll put at 13 on our list. This will be controversial. I'm going with the Angels, because I think that there's. Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure because I think that there would be, the way I looked at it is which team would I want to be a fan of right now? Like what team's got the best future? What team can I get most excited for right now? And yes, you do have those crown jewels in Trout and Ohtani. That has to make the consistent mediocrity, we talked about it earlier, so much more frustrating. To be bad, to be tanking, like what the A's are now. What do you expect? Oh, there's a reason to have expectations with some of the talent that you have on your roster, and they will always come up short. That's got to be frustrating. I think it's a similar position to the White Sox, honestly, with the constantly hovering around 500. Are you going to spend? Are you not going to spend? Talent, you don't really build around it. They're cut from the same cloth.
I'm going to take another controversial team here.
Okay, we're on to 12. Right, yeah.
So we're 12?
Yeah.
All right. The 12th worst American League team that I don't want to be a fan of you at all is got to be the Minnesota Twins. Because all they do is get smashed in the postseason. And, like, they spent all that money on Carlos Correa. It's like, this still doesn't, like, we're just sitting here being like, doesn't matter, guys. Sorry, it doesn't matter. It sucks when you see Sonny Gray and Joe Ryan ball out, and Pablo Lopez is awesome, and they've got a great rotate, and you're like, nah, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Because the second the Minnesota Wild go to, like, a Stanley Cup, like, quarterfinals, whatever's going on with the Twins, nobody will care about. Like, it's just to me is such an utterly secondary, tertiary, like, they care way more about the Golden Gophers than they do about the Minnesota Twins. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people from Minnesota can come back to me and be like, you fucking moron, we like them. But it just is, to me, is always like a disconnected team from that. Oh, fuck, I'm going to get killed for this, but I just don't like them. I just don't want to go cheer.
I get what you're saying. I had them higher. I almost put them lower because of the logic you just had. I guess the way I was looking at it was, if I was a Twins fan right now, at least you are competitive, and it looks like you may be built to be competitive for a minute. And yes, it might not end well, but I can't put them below, or I wouldn't have put them below the number 11 team, Kansas City Royals. Another team with pieces, another very passionate fan base. We saw the way they filled that park when that team was really rolling there in the mid 2010s. But outside of our boy Vinny and most likely Bobby Witt Jr.,
thank you,
I think that there are a lot of questions with their player and especially pitcher development. It's a team that rarely ever spends any money. You need to build through the draft. You need to build through your system. It seems like they've kind of swung and missed on a few guys at this point. And you are just bringing in a GM in his first year. This is going to take a while, so that's why I have them where I have them.
I will point out Michael Massey's been outstanding in May with a 930 OPS. And he went to my high school and to my college, and I like Michael Massey a lot. So we haven't done that at all on the show yet, but you're going to get some Michael Massey chatter as soon as the OPS starts to bubble up a little bit. I have to say that I'm partial to the Kansas City Royals, obviously because of Vinny, obviously because I became buddies with a bunch of these guys down in Arizona and got a chance to spend time with them. And I will tell you an endearing story when I first got to Arizona, and I didn't have just me and my wife down there. And the Royals were like, hey, does your wife want to hang out with our wives? Like, they go out to dinner on Fridays and they do shit and go shopping and stuff if Mrs. Carl wants to get in on that. And she did, and she became friends with these people. And they were super, like, I just like those boys, and this is so biased. I try not to be biased on the national show. I try to do the best I can, but I'm like, I have the Royals higher than where they should be. I try to be objective. I had them 11th. So
okay, yeah,
we have them here 11th.
Oh
so
wait, no, so that works out. Yeah, we just had the Twins at a much different spot. We're out at 10 now.
Nope.
I have a guess of where you're going to go here, but
okay. What's your guess?
I think you're going to go with my Tigers.
I am. I'm taking your Tigers 10. Okay, so I like the ballpark. I was like enamored with Comerica, and I also just like the history and the tradition. I like the way baseball fits into Detroit sports, and I like that knowing if the Tigers were good and competitive, that Comerica would be a very difficult place to play. I like Scott Harris a lot. I like some of these young players a lot. The energy. I fucking love AJ Hinch.
Me too.
Like, I know he's a cheater, but he's a great manager. He's a great manager. Not a good manager. He's a great manager. Yeah. I like the uniform. I like the D. I like the hat. And here's the most underrated part about being a Tigers fan. I loved your post-game party afterwards. Like, we didn't get up to on the tin roof, but like that little post square area in the circle where everybody was dancing and grinding, and like that was a party. I like that a lot.
Yeah. No, I think a year ago at this time, I would have had us probably 14 on this list. Just with the addition of Scott Harris alone and the way they've played so far this season, there's a little bit more hope there than there is, I feel like, with the other four teams long term than I feel like there is with the other four teams that we mentioned. So you had them at 10. Man, I like this team a lot too. I root for them. But I think I got to put them 9, despite how good they've been, over the last decade or so. The Guardians, just because they're in a similar spot to some other teams on this list where I think there's talent here. I think that, I actually think Progressive Field is an underrated ballpark. You have a superstar in J-Ram, but it's like they're one notch away from really going all out, really spending, really putting together a team that was rolling the way that they were in the 90s when they had some of the best offenses ever. So it's got to be a frustrating watch year in and year out, knowing that they're good, even sometimes very good, is not good enough.
Well said.
Thank you.
Here's the most gutting thing about the Guardians is that the Dolans I think they're the fourth richest family in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. No, they're very similar to the Illiches, man, where it's at least, I mean, we've spent more than they have. It speaks to what's been missing there. It's just that one big push, that one big free agent could have made all of the difference.
8? Fuck.
I believe it's, yes, 8.
So I have, this is where I had the Angels.
Okay.
Like in this area. So I think we had the Angels and the Twins kind of flip-flop because I do like, it's California,
Fair.
sunshine. But we're 8. I'm going to go Rangers. There's just enough there for me to be interested. Bruce Bochy's starting to win me over. I don't like a new park. I would hate to get acclimated to a new park, especially if I grew up as a kid going to that park. I'd say renovate the park I went to as a kid. Don't give me a new park. I don't care how nice the park is. Like, if you change the park I went to as a little kid, I'd be furious. So that's just kind of working against me here. Some of these young kids coming up are going to be awesome, though. They look like they're competitive. The Rangers, 3 years from now, could be in the top 3. They could be in the bottom 3 of this list.
They're a boomer bust team, I feel like, just as a whole with the core they put together. But I had them a little bit higher on my initial list because I think that it would be easy to go to the park right now. And let's go see something. We have legit stars on our team. We're in first place. Yes, like maybe we're a World Series team, maybe we're not, but we are gonna be in the playoffs this year, and we're gonna be playing competitive baseball. So I had them a little bit higher, but that takes us to number 7.
Correctables.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who are going to think we're putting this team too high. I went with the Red Sox because I know there's a lot of Red Sox fans that are really mad at ownership right now, really mad at Bloom. I get it, but at the same time, you're not nearly as bad as you think you are. And I do think the future is a little bit brighter than people let on. It's still Fenway. There's still the history, still the tradition. I have a hard time believing it's ever going to be that difficult to be a Red Sox fan, but I could be wrong. Well, outside of the 86 years that preceded that where they went in between championships, but I'm talking in my lifetime, the Red Sox are the dominant team, more so than the Yankees.
I had them number 1.
Did you really? Okay.
And they just transcend the sport. Like, if you could be a Red Sox fan, because they have everything I like as a Cubs fan, except they fucking care, and they're a little bit sharper, and they're a little bit more gritty and kind of in it. I love being a Cubs fan, and I love what that means. I love going to a ballpark at 1 o'clock and like, hey, you're a couple beers before the game. You're supposed to get there at 11:30 and have a couple beers on an empty stomach. Like, you're supposed to go into the outfield and yell dumb, bad jokes. They're not supposed to be funny. Like, you're supposed to get mad when they do the wave, and you're supposed to make friends with people that are in their 50s and in their 20s and in the couple in from Iowa. And you're supposed to be goofy and silly and have a good time. And that's the core of being a Cubs fan. Red Sox fans, I'm sorry, like, being a core Red Sox fan is like, you show up on opening day and you are fucking ready to roll for a season. You fucking hate your owner. You fucking are so mad those guys aren't coming back. You are just in it in such a deeply profound way that isn't about like, we're better than you, or it's just so much about themselves. Like, they're just so fucking into themselves. And I'm jealous. I think it would be an awesome thing to be a part of.
So the way you're describing it, is there anything the Red Sox could do that would remove them from number 1 on this list?
I mean, dude, Fenway in like July. You're telling me I get to go to Fenway in July and wear like a Red Sox jersey and talk shit to like the Orioles? Like, you fucking Bob. Oh, man, that's good living. That is good living. And just to be part of that wild pack, with all their They're such a cool team. And I do hate that the fact that the owner doesn't meet with the media, but they paid Devers. They did pay Devers. I know they didn't pay Bogarts, but they paid Devers. They paid Yoshida. He ain't shitty. I don't know, man. Maybe maybe it's a bad take for them 1-1. But as we were putting this list together, I was like, there's nobody who's doing anything where I was like, I want to go be part of that. Anything more than what the Red Sox are doing. But you're an American League guy. I'm not.
Comments are going to be really divisive because I bet there's going to be people who are going to totally agree with you, people who are going to agree with me, putting them kind of mid-tier, and people who think that it's miserable to be a fan of them right now and that there's no hope. So I'm excited to read what people have to say about that. But we're on to 6, so it's you now.
Taking the Rays, just they're
yeah, it's fair.
Every year they're good. I don't want to complicate this. Every year they're good. They don't ask much of their fans. It's probably easy to go to that ballpark. I know it sucks. Here's the other thing that's cool. They play the Yankees all the time. I know they changed the rules with the scheduling and stuff, but
they still play them a lot.
They're in that division. That's a nice division to be in. That's a nice division to follow. It's like, oh, the Red Sox are playing the Yankees tonight, and the Blue Jays are playing that's a really fun. I don't get that. The Central, the Reds are playing the Brewers. Nobody gives a fuck.
Right. Fair. Number 5, I'm staying in the East, going with the Yankees. Obviously, you have so much built-in tradition there. Understandably, a lot of frustration with the way the postseason has gone since 2009. But at the same time, look, you have a guy in your team that hit 62 home runs last year, and Garrett Cole takes the mound once every 5th day. There is they've gotten to that point again. I've talked about earlier where it's like with some other teams where maybe their best just isn't good enough or hasn't been. But there's a lot to look forward to. I think the Yankees are the one team in sports where you can say year in and year out, game 162 will mean something. The last game will mean something. And it's, there's not a lot of teams in all sports that can say that. So I think that does make being a fan of them fun because you have something to latch on to all summer.
Yeah, the only thing, I had the Yankees 4th on my list, and they would be up there in that Red Sox conversation for all of those great reasons. Like, there is that sense of like, man, it'd be cool to be a Yankees fan, especially if you grew up watching Derek Jeter just, every year it was like Michael Jordan and the Bulls and Derek Jeter and the Yankees were just winning championships in the championship for like a 11-year stretch. Jordan, Jeter. It's too inconvenient. They ask a lot of the fans. It's just a lot. Like, being a Yankees fan is just, you have to like take all the good with the bad and all the bad with the good. And to me with the Yankees, that's the thing that holds them back from the Red Sox. I just think there's a little bit more charm to being a Red Sox fan, and where like the Yankees, they just don't have that like, ooh, that'd be like, it would be fun, but I don't know if I would like myself for it.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fair. It feels icky.
Okay, icky 4. I'm going Mariners. Mariners 4. I like Mariners culture. I think Mariners are cool guys. You have them 4?
Yeah, I did as well. Yeah.
I like their culture. I think Mariners fans are fun people. And a good example of that would be like, sure, the 12th man in Seattle is so cheesy, but like, they believed it. They believe that you put on your jersey with number 12 on it and you go to the Seahawks games and you yell loud enough and the team won. And you would like go home after and hey, we had a great game cheering tonight, Brad. Like, you too, Kyle. Thanks, Chad. Like, we all brought the noise tonight. That's super dorky, but at the same time, like, that's being a sports fan. And the Mariners have that core to play with.
Yeah,
that's the true blood of being a Seattle sports fan. Is like, we're gonna get our boys. It's gonna be a tough one tonight. Safeco or T-Mobile or whatever it's called, and that's endearing. It's also, they got a great team to be a fan of. I mean, just a great product on the field, young players. I like them. I want to be a Mariners fan.
No, I get it. Yeah, I guess there might be some pushback just because of the way they've started this season, but future there's still really bright. A lot of good, fun, young players, franchise player in J-Rod. So I'm with you there. I think, okay, this will be interesting to see how we arrange these next 3. At 3, I have, even though I kind of talked shit about them earlier, it would be a lot of fun to be a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays. Like, I think I'm looking at cores. It's like you have 4 or 5 really good players on that offense that can mash. You have some good pitchers. ballpark just got renovated. You're another team that like is in win now mode. Like the championship window is open. That is, whether it results in a title or not, I'm telling you, that is just fun to pay attention to all year. So I'm going with them at 3.
It's a good pick. It's the only team in Canada. You got a great base to pull from. Everybody likes them. They save hockey. That's what they get into their fights about. Well, that's because you're a Flames fan, you white collar pussy, and it's like, okay, you blue collar bum from Edmonton. Like they get mean about the hockey stuff. When it comes to baseball, they're all very nice. They're all very friendly.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Orioles.
Yep, that was mine as well.
Just obviously young. I like Brandon Hyde a lot. Going to Camden Yards is sick. It's a great history tradition. You got a lot of stuff to buy into and learn about. Like, there's a lot of reasons to be proud. Obviously, the ownership sucks right now. My understanding is this is like getting in on like an EPL team where the owner's about to sell. Like maybe it's not this year, next year, but like there's ownership groups on the move, and the next people that come in are going to take the Orioles to like the next level. And hopefully it's while Adley Rushman's still an Oriole. Like that'd be so sick if you could, and it's not going to be Cuban, but that type of person that would come in and see exactly how much potential is there in the city of Baltimore with a championship caliber team year in, year out.
Yeah, no, and they're, to me, as a fan base, they're in the honeymoon phase now because it's not championship or bust this year. You win your 90 games, you get into the postseason, you experience a little bit of it, you're on the rise. Like this is, you're playing with house money. That is super fun as a fan when the expectations, and I think the fans had reasonable expectations, but maybe aren't through the roof and you're overshooting those. That's fantastic. And number one, I mean, I thought we'd agree. Houston Astros, I mean, they have become the muscle that other teams just can't seem to defeat. I mean, they have become, to this era, what the Yankees of the mid to late 90s and into the early 2000s were. How do we beat this team? We want to win the World Series. How do we get through this team? And they have had not the best of luck with everything. Look at the number of free agents they've lost. Look at the amount of injuries they've had, and they just keep chugging along. Maybe this team won't win the World Series, but they are in the midst of what's been basically close to a decade-long window of competition that every team would kill to have.
Yeah. Well said.
Thank you.
Well
I
said.
try to speak eloquently.
Don't get too caught up into it. I like the Astros because I like, just very realistically, like I like watching their players play. I like Alex Bregman. I like watching him take grounders at third. I like watching him hit with 2 strikes. I like when the inside fastball is 99 miles an hour and he still figures out a way to keep his barrel on the inside and extend and drive it to left center. Like that, the guy is such a perfect looking baseball player. But then you have like the Titanic Yordan Alvarez, who just creates these unbelievable moments. And then you've got a guy like Tucker who's probably going to put together a fucking Hall of Fame resume. Like at the end of the day, the guy who might have the most, like, did you know he's the only player to hit 400 doubles and 350 home runs and all that crazy, stupid shit. And it's like, oh yeah, did you even know that guy was in the middle of the lineup? Meanwhile, like Jeremy Pena is like being that guy for the next generation of kids, for like the kids that are growing up right now. Like you get Jeremy Pena, you fucking lucky kids. You lucky. Yeah. Tuve's not even playing.
Well, that's the other thing is that's what I bring up is like they have lost guys, and had some devastating moments, pitching injuries, position player injuries. Mauricio Dubon's hitting 300. Like he had a 20-game like hitting streak earlier this year. Of course he did. Like has to be so freeing as a fan to be like, don't worry, we find guys. It's all good. Like one guy goes down, we'll get a replacement player that's going to play out of his mind for a few months. It's fine.
So here's our 15. I'm going to go top down. 1 Astros, 2 Orioles, 3 Blue Jays, 4 Mariners, 5 Yankees, 6 Rays, 7 Red Sox, 8 Rangers, 9 Guardians, 10 Tigers, 11 Royals, 12 Twins, 13 Angels. Then we close it out, White Sox, Athletics. It's a good list. Yep. Good exercise.
Yeah. No, it's fun. I'll be interested to see what people have to say about it.
Yeah, the Red Sox at 7 is going to be...
Yeah, that'll be the most divisive, I feel like. Has to be.
Yeah. What else you got? Anything?
One
huge.
Huge in my world. Huge in my world, real quick. I just saw this on Twitter. 2 years ago today, Spencer Turnbull threw a no-hitter. So to the people listening to this or watching this right now, that's the reason I got hired. So just appreciate all the Stoolies and the Barstool Baseball people for continuing to let me into your world. It's been awesome.
Yes. Continue to let Chris into your world by subscribing to the show,
yes,
subscribing
definitely.
to our feed. This is Friday. This is an American League show where we talk about the American League. We will be back next week, hopefully with a Mariners person, in some more news. We'll be back on Monday with a power ranking panel, and then Wednesday, National League, Friday, American League. You guys know where to find us. Subscribe to our stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time.